Shri Gurubhyo Paramagurubhyo Srimatanandatirtha Bhagavatpadacharyophyo Namo Namaha Narayana Paripurna Gunarnavaya Visvodaya Stititolaya Niyadi Prataya Jnana Prataya Vibhuda Sura Saukya Dukkha Satkaranaya Vidadaya Namo Namaste Yo Vipralimba Viparita Mati Prabodhan Vadan Rasya Kritavan Bhuvidatvavadam Sarvesvaro Haririti Pratipatakam Tam Anandatirtha Munivaryam Namami Pujjaya Rahavendraya Satyadharmarataya Cha Pajatam Kalpavrikshaya Namatam Kamadhenave Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadidamastuma Vishvidavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome friends once again to our journey of Kathopanishad. So far we have seen the third Valli, first mantra, just for the purpose of our own recollection. First mantra talked about because there are two drinkers because who were just getting into they were just going about the life and they were trying to have exclusive interaction with them. And then we found out, because in the two drinkers, it's not something two drinkers as you apparently say, it is the two aspects of the God or two aspects of the evolution of the human being that is possible. One is vyavaharika, because what we undergo, because the normal life, when we indulge in the life, when we experience the life, how we do it, and by virtue of the experience, and by virtue of tattva, when we say, philosophy, Advaita, Visishtadvaita, or the Shuddha Advaita, or Tattvavada, Dvaita, whatever we call it, the tattva comes out of the essence of the experience. The essence of the experience, once you are able to get it, that is the philosophy that what all of us are having. We are having our own philosophy by virtue of our own experience. But these philosophical propositions which is made by the great acharyas help us to regulate, help us to get away from the misunderstandings which we might have. One of the greatest problem in human experience is it is not always that you will be able to understand the right thing rightly. You will have experience, you will learn it at that point of time. Because at that point of time, depending upon your mental conditions, because we are all emotional beings, so being a human being, when the emotion comes first, the intellect works later only. When the emotion overtakes, whatever be at that point of the emotion, you take it as the experience. But your experience may be something different. Because as you see in the hindsight, whatever hasn't happened in your life, what you thought, maybe one of the worst things that has happened at that point of time, you would be thanking God. It's good that it happened at that point of time. It not happened little later. Having got that experience, you could set a course for your life. You are able to realize now, yes, without that happening, you could not have heard the further progress in your life. You could not have experienced further, whatever, the glories, you have enjoyed in your life, development you have enjoyed in your life, and whatever qualities you could absorb in the life and all. Because all of us, do have at every point of time, the three gunas are there. That is sattva, rajasa and tamasika. In the child, when it has got a lot of sattvas and it innocently plays. It plays with everyone. The known face, unknown face, it doesn't differentiate between anyone. But the experience gathers, it knows, because these are all the people who are, I think, I can go to them, they are close to me. Others are not close to me. This type of discrimination comes over a period of time, because that is practical way of gaining the knowledge. It's not bad, that is how, human development takes place, you will have to live in the society. The society will not be able to have a sort of a open life because the society has got its own constraint, that's a regulation, and you will have to follow the regulation. But the more you have, because these components of, whatever the sattva, rajasa and tamasika, what we call, by virtue of your environment which is created in your house. For instance, because there was one question that was asked to one of the famous monk, who is very popular in US nowadays, is Swami Sarvapriyananda. He is of the Ramakrishna order. And he is sort of one of the wonderful speakers. And in fact, he is able to put the thing so nicely. A common man can understand, even the very difficult concepts of philosophy. When someone asked him what propelled him to get into this, because in fact, he had a good study. His father was a very senior officer. He was an administrative service officer. He is from a very good family with a lot of background and all, because no one expected him to take sannyas, to become a monk. But he finally has become a monk of the Ramakrishna order. When asked him, he said, because there was an environment in my house, there was a lot of, the lectures of Swami Vivekananda, books of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and other masters, because like Ishwar Chandra Vidyashakar and even the great masters, because and all the great masters of Swami Ramananda, everything was there. So when he had the occasion to go through, naturally it sends the influence, the vibes. The books are not a solid printed paper material as you read it, because in fact it has got more effect than the digital media. In the digital media, it is just floats at that point of time. But once you close, and I think, then the retention power is only, retention is very limited. Retention percentage is very limited. Whereas if you read a book, even 10 pages you read, your retention is much more than what you could have got in the digital media. Because that is because digital media, our eyes work, because we think, and we have also got so many other things. We take it easy, and we can close anytime and we can come back anytime. Whereas in the book, when you read it, the hard, large books, when you read it, you are able to work, because you try to you reread the same page again, if you want to understand something. The reading and rereading is one of the greatest habits, because that is why reading is not just a transient amusement. It is abiding pleasure, and it is going to give the abiding knowledge all through the life. So that's why when he said, when all these things were available, he was just, going through, as time permits, he used to go here and there and all. But there was some lingering doubt in him, because, what is that, why these books say something and what we are doing something, it doesn't match. Because they talk about, some philosophy, which you can't apply on a day-to-day basis. They talk about very big concepts. They talk about renunciation. They talk about regulating your senses. They talk about, the getting the bliss and all. But whereas in your everyday life, you have got to deal with the life. In school life, you have to study and score your marks and compete with your children, and you've got to be good in sports also if you've got the interest. And your parents want you to be good at everything, because whatever they have missed, they want you to be that. That is the problem of our Macaulay education, because we don't allow the children to be grow in a particular interest, what it has got. Because like we may be an almond tree, almond tree can produce only almond tree, but we want our children to be a tree of everything. They have to produce coconut, they have to produce almond, they have to be produce walnut. And how is it possible? So this is exactly, in fact, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also has given this analogy somewhere else. So all these things he had gone to him, and he was, but of course, he didn't show it to his parents. He did his MBA from a very famous premier institute. And he was a very outstanding boy. He could have sat in the administrative service exam and got through and all. But his mind was totally into this. As he meant, because he was going to the Ramakrishna Mutt, because his parents were going, and he also took the occasion to go with them. Slowly on his own, because when he went to outside for his education, he started interacting. That's how it drained into him. He's one of the finest speakers, and who could put the entire the complex philosophy into simple words for anyone to understand. He did that. It is the environment that is created in the house. But if you create, every day, you are going to your party, or every day, you go to, I think, because you have got some other, you are only going and meeting, the sort of gatherings, and you are going somewhere else and all, and that influences you. But in spite of the fact, whatever you carried on for the generations, for the births together, that continues to be there. Therefore, you will find, even in some circumstances where it is not possible, some of the masters have come about. They come about because the innate talent in them, the innate strength in them, the innate energy in them, the innate sort of thirst for knowledge in them, they have propelled them to take. So this is exactly, what we are seeing, in this particular mantra. This is exactly what Swami Vivekananda has also said in his lectures. One of the first thing, because as a young man, because whenever anyone wanted to read anything, there was one famous president of Ramakrishna Mutt, very famous Swami, most of the people know Swami Ranganathananda. He was the international president of Ramakrishna Order, and he used to advise all the youngsters wherever you go that there is a book called Columbu to Almora. There is a book. I think someone, if you had occasion, if you get it also, you can read it. It's nothing but, because when he came back from, after his address in Chicago, because the Vivekananda was not, he was not having a plan to go to Chicago and give the address and all. Finally, three young men from South who designed the whole thing, and there is one Maharaja of Ramnad, Raja of Ramnad, Ramanathapuram, with Rameshwaram temple comes under that, he was also is a philosophically inclined person. So he also, they thought, because Swami Vivekananda should go. And the one young person who doesn't have any resources, he collected resources, he was a very great admirer of Vivekananda. They all propelled him, because to go to, they facilitated him to go to US and he participate, in that international conference of the religions. There also, he didn't have any invite, because only those who can have the invite, they can attend that. It's also a famous story, because when we say God's grace, how it happens when you deserve it, you can find that and all. When he went there, he didn't have anything, because he was just, it is very cold in Chicago, he reached there, and he couldn't have proper clothing to cover him. But finally, because one lady, because where he was about to stay, so that lady took and she asked him to come and stay with him. And in fact, when she provided everything and all, she got admired of his, the talking and the way he was expressing himself and all. Incidentally, she was going to Massachusetts. And she said, why don't you, because since you have got no one to think, why don't you come with me? That's how we went there. And when she went to Massachusetts, Cambridge, and she happened to stay in the house, and she had some neighbors, whom known neighbor, one of the neighbors was a professor of philosophy in Harvard, divinity, they call it the School of Divinity there. And he happened to be there, the neighbor of Swami Vivekananda, the lady who has taken Swami Vivekananda there and all. This lady one day just told that neighbor, because why don't you come and talk to a person who has come from India, and he seems to be knowing much more than what all we talking about, and why don't you just come and have a, and you are also in philosophy, perhaps you may be able to appreciate more than what I do, because that's how she called the professor of philosophy in Harvard, who had come there. And the incident, these are all how it happened. It was not designed at all. It all happened. When we say God's grace, the God's grace comes to those who are deserving. It comes like this. And when that professor came and for a cup of coffee, he was invited there, and when they were talking about, he was to have only a chat for 10 minutes, and he was just talking to him for more than 3.5 hours. After that, the professor went and told his colleagues, there is a person who has come from India who seems to be knowing much more than all of us collectively. See, that is the impression, because he could get from, because after talking to Swami Vivekananda. Then, when he was thinking there was no invite to him for this conference of religion, they arranged, because being Harvard and because they were also, because one of their colleagues was also participating in the seminar. That's how he got the invite. Otherwise, there was no invite to him. But when that came, afterwards we know the history, because after that fantastic talk, because the time-changing talk, what he gave, how things have changed, how he established, the Vedanta Society of New York, Vedanta Society of Chicago, everywhere, and it's in Hollywood also. And Soropriyananda is heading that in Hollywood as it is. Because they have got a lot of followers there. And because Hollywood, we think only about movies and all. But there are a lot of intellectual pursuits in the University of California, and a lot of people, they all come there. That's how, because in that, that's how he was telling. When I read about all these things, how it happened to him, and how Swami Vivekananda has taken a land in which no one knows about the Eastern philosophy, how he made it to appreciate, how he established the Vedanta schools, and how they are flourishing. Even in Cambridge, it is there. Vedanta Society is there. And there also, I think, continuous discussions are taking place. And even the Soropriyananda, he also took admission in Divinity School of Harvard, and he went through 2 years. And in Harvard and all, they are all original sort of work. When you talk about Upanishad, they don't want to go by this bhashya or that bhashya. You could read the Upanishad, come out with your own ideas and all. That's very difficult for us. Upanishad is such a cryptic language. Only the masters can understand. That is why, because for that the bhashas have been written by the great masters like Shankaracharya and Rangaramanuja, Vishtadvaita team, and Madhvacharya and others. They have written. But for a person like us to interpret Upanishad is almost an impossible task, because we are not in that frame. We have not undergone the training to that, because when they say Adhyayana 12 years, you have to be with the Guru, and you will have to serve the Guru, and you will have to be part of the Guru, and you will have to surrender to the Guru to know that. That's why we will be seeing in one of the Upanishad which will be coming, Mundaka Upanishad, that is there will Sostriyam Brahmanishtam, one word, because when you want to say a Guru, you go with Samit, because what the twigs. The twigs, you go to them, and if Guru is willing to accept, he will test you, and then you will accept that, then you are surrendering, that's all. You will simply be giving yourself, and you are not going to Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bunatu, Sahavidyam, Karavavahi. In the sense, you totally surrender, and there is no cavil between the Guru and all, because finally you get into that mode of the highest elixir of, the junction, where it takes place. The knowledge get transported. Knowledge it is not, he is telling you and you are listening, because by getting the Shruti, whatever your Guru says, he imparts in you. Once it is imparted, it is Pratishta. When he says it is established in you, when it's established in you, you become a master, because they have produced so many masters like that. See, though we say, because nowadays the knowledge was kept secret, no one, because without this, so many lineage of, so many gurus could not have come and recited. Even if you say the Rig Veda, it is not only Vishwamitra, his son, who is there, another great master, Madhuchandra. So if you see, Dirgathamas, so many masters of one after the other have come. They have produced very great masters. All of them have collectively put together. That is why we don't have any authorship of the Vedas. You cannot say one person has written a Veda, because so many minds have come, because whatever they have gone beyond their body, mind, and intellect, whatever the highest concept that has come through the intuition, they have put in papers. That is how, we can't be interpreting, because the Upanishad and all, as Harvard would like us to do, because, we are not in that. We can't go beyond that. I can only relate whatever I am seeing, whatever I have experienced, whatever is being talked about, whatever is being bandied about, whatever I am seeing in the newspaper, TV and all. But I will not be able to go beyond that. But to go that, once I am able to go beyond that, I will be able to understand. For understand, I am able to see these bhashyas. From the bhashyas, we are able to get that. But if I am able to interpret, it may be possible, but I am able to condition myself, get into that. That will take several births, not this birth. It is not possible. When a Shankaracharya has come, is the fruition of so many births. Finally, the master has culminated into Shankaracharya. So is Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and it's all the final in the Chaitana, what we say, because when entire in the psyche, what we call it, because the psyche, what will finally comes about, that psyche, Chaitana is the one, which is differentiates the human being. When you come through, because there are 84 lakh creatures are there. I think, in our Sanatana Dharma, it is normally, they say 84 lakh creatures you will have to go through. Every time, when you are going through different births, different creatures, you could have been a plant sometime, I could have been an animal sometime. I could have been an animal of the same animal, I could have been in different births. I have evolved, and finally I have come into this. When you come, the Chaitana has been given, because I have gone through, and I have gone through all this sort of develop myself to some extent. Finally, I have got this particular birth. Having got this birth, where you are able to get that Chaitana, that is the life force. That Chaitana, when it's come, that's why, that differentiated, because whatever the discriminating quality, whatever the intellect that is there, that differentiates us and the animals. Animals as well, otherwise they also have everything at all. They also have prarabdha karma, because the animal, what it has lived, whatever, it has got, it has to live through this life, that's how it comes. Either it becomes a prey or it takes the prey. So is, even the animals in the sea, whether it is a dolphin, fish, or anything like that, everything happens like that. Because there is a natural order. Who has created that order? So when you are able to look into, that's why, time immemorial, because what is a man? What is a human being? You can't call it what is a man or woman. It is what is a human being. That is the concept, what has bothered so many people thousands of years. In all philosophy, not only in ours. In Greek philosophy also it is there. It is otherwise, because Stoic philosophy, which is famously followed by Marcus Aurelius Antoninus in the Rome and all before the Christianity came. Even all the philosophy, the Abrahamic philosophy also, it has got bothered them. So that is how when they say, if it is a man, is it that, because what your life to, because we have come from a stone age. We have created a good life for them. We have seen the comfort with ourselves and all. But as we build the comfort of ourselves, we have totally, we're losing the faculty of us. We had a fantastic faculty. We had an innate faculty. That's happening. As without calculator, we are not able to use our mind, to have the mensuration as I was talking about. And we are slowly losing the faculty. More you look towards the comfort, it is the means to lose your faculty, to lose your own, ability to do anything at all. It's not that you should not seek the comfort. You should have the comfort and all, but the comfort only to the extent, because it enables you to pursue your own skills and strengths. Not beyond that, because that is after all, it's not that you will have to use a car, if you will have to go 100 miles, you will have to use a car, but only to that purpose. Not that, because I will have a air conditioned car, because I will have this facility, that facility and all, because even the ability to withstand the climate also goes off. See, sometimes people, because some old monks, even now I am seeing them, they go to various places, somewhere, the climate is hot, somewhere, even Jain monks you might be seeing, that a lot of Jain monks, they are walking. You might be seeing, in the outskirts of the city. Miles they are walking. And they go and sleep wherever, they have got a place to sleep. But will we be able to stay? Will we be able to sleep on a bare floor without a mattress or a cot? We can't. Because that is how, how they have trained themselves in the sense, because there is something much more there. Okay, for me, it doesn't have to look, because I'm okay with that, we can have that. But always, once you think, what is how I can get into a higher mode and all. It's not that you have the comfort, you enjoy whatever forms that has been created for you in this world and all. But while doing that, you see the purpose for that. And you got, once you know, your purpose will be lost after a few moments. That's why we call it ephemeral. You don't want to continuously fool. You may like a particular thing, but you would not like to continuously hold on to that. You will just keep it, only when you want the use, you will take it. You will take the car out only when you have to go out, not otherwise you are not taking it. Once you start using it only when it is needed, and then you will be focusing on what is that you will have, then you will be finding the purpose. This is exactly, because that mantra what we were talking about, Atma Ratinam, Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi Shariram, Ratamevacha, because, when we said, the body is like a chariot, and the soul is, because the Jiva is, and the Jiva is riding the chariot. The charioteer is the one who is having the discriminating ability. The discriminating ability is the intellect. The discriminating ability of the intellect he gets from the super soul. The super soul in the self, what you call the Paramarthika self of Advaita, or the other person who is there. When we say two drinkers, the two drinkers are the two aspects of the God. When you get totally elevated, he gets into the highest mode of intellect, the discriminating ability. And when you are able to ride the horses are the senses. The mind is the bridle, which connects all the senses to this. And if you don't, the intellect doesn't use the discriminating power, it can go, haywire, it can run amok. And the roads are the one that is where you got the objects. Objects in a sense, be it, the objects of the life which you want to enjoy, the objects of the journey what you want to undertake, objects of the experiences, that is the road. In that road, if you want to go, you will have to have all the five senses, if you allow them, they will go in five different directions. And the bridle will not be able to collect it. The intellect, if it is having a discriminating power, it will be able to sort of a control and take it you to the right goal. So what is that, the discriminating ability, what we are talking about? When we are talking about the discriminating ability and all, more you are able to control. Why you have to control the mind, the senses by the mind, and the mind will have to be controlled by the intellect, by discriminating power. And the discriminating power, he gets it from the super soul, and so that, because the soul's journey in this life is wonderful and all. Why it should happen and all? Because once you do that, you will have the qualities that is required for you to take you within the ambit of the road. You will not go out of the road. You will not get into the sideways. You will not get into the ditch. You will go within the light path. You will be able to go through that, and you will be on destination. You don't know where you are going to. The destination is endless, and more you are able to elevate yourself, it will take us to the higher destination. The choice is yours. This is what exactly says. It's the same Western philosophy also. When we talk about Phaedrus, because which we talked about Phaedrus, which that Plato has quoted in the words of Socrates. What it is saying, it has got two horses instead of five horses. What we call it senses, the two horses. One is the mortal horse, which is taking you to the worldly experience. It is black, grey, and it has got always impetuous. It will run away. The other one is white horse. It is immortal. It takes you to the highest elevator. But you have to control both the horses to go to your destination. Two different seats. How you will be able to control the two different steeds with the same bride? Because the mind, how it will be? That is the skill of the person. The skill comes through the power, what we call it abhyasa. And what, because when we talked about, because last week I was quoting one verse from Gita, where Arjuna asked, because you were telling all these things, because I am not able to do, what is this mind? And the mind is out of control. I am not able to control the mind. Will you be able to, because if that is the case, what is that am I to do? Because if you say, which is not possible for me, how am I to do it? Can you give me a key to that? How to control the mind? For that, he says, Sanchalam hi manaha Krishna pramati baladrudam, because the mind is very restless. Krishna pramati baladrudam, it goes to here then. Krishna itapya tasyaham nigraham manye, because I am not able to control that. Why manye vayoriva chatashtkam, more difficult to control. Because whenever I am trying to control, it goes to all the things. Where you are prohibited, you want to do that. So you have been asked, because you should not you should not go with your passport, and you just land up, without your passport, and you expect an immediate visa. It happens. A lot of people, because in some countries we don't know whether we need visa or something like that. It happens. One way is, we do that. And if you are prohibited, why don't you let me take once and see what it happens? Because there's a human tendency that happens. For that only he says, Asamshayam Mahabaho, there is no doubt about it. What you said is absolutely correct. The mind is not at all in control. Mano Nigraham Chalam, you will not be able to control the mind. It will go out, it will run amok. It will go in its own way. But what he says is the what we call the Saburi, what has been written in all the Sai Baba mandirs, Shraddha or Saburi. Shraddha is continuous effort, because you may succeed in a first effort, because the second effort you may be little more. And if I have to get by 5 o'clock in the morning, the first day, because I might have improved it by 7 o'clock, maybe next day I will try to make it 6:30. And the little, I can go to bed early and try to make it little next day. Likewise, it takes a kaizen, because the Japanese way of doing slow improvement. Finally, it comes abhyasa. Abhyasa is just by continuous steadfastness without giving it up to work on that. Abhyase nigraha abhyase parabuddhyam parastatu yada, because kaunteya vairagyana cha grihete. Abhyasena vairagyana, vairagyana is steadfastness, saburi, and you will have to be patient. You can't expect, because we the life, because unfortunately what has happened, we are impatient. We do certain things, we expect the results. As because it happens, our lifetime is sort of a small, and we want to achieve so many things. Every time management is very difficult for us, because we plan so many things which we can't do. Most of the time, if you ask me, I'm also in a want of time. If I have more time, I will do it. But I am not able to get the time for whatever I wanted to do, because I have not disciplined myself. I have not tried to do what is possible. Because whenever I do something, I will have to do it to the fullest extent with all the excellence possible. I should not leave anything to chance. But I have still not been trained, because that's a continuous effort. That's how I have been doing it. Once you do that, you know the art of possible. Art of possible is, even if you do two things in a day, you will do the two things so perfectly, no one else can do so perfectly as you have done. That will take you the right thing, because that is what the children have to be taught. It's not that you become a sportsman, you become a this and that, because all these things will not happen. So therefore, that is the one. Finally, once you do that, they will be able to focus on, because little things what you are doing. If the study is there, they will do the study. If he wants to become a sportsman, he will become a full-fledged sportsman, accomplished sportsman. And if you want to be an artist, you will be doing that. Once you do that, that will be possible. That's why excellence is the one which you will have to look for in whatever you are doing. That is the Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is not doing so many things. Karma Yoga is doing so many things without attendant imbecile, because sort of a error, and you are able to perfectly do it the most excellent possible way a person can accomplish anything what we do. Once you have that, you will be doing only so many things within your ambit, so many things within your capacity, so many things which is in your control. You will be doing that. That excellence, once you are doing for that, that is the abhyasa. Once you do that, that is how you will be able to do it. Vairagya is you will have to be patient. Still such time, you are able to bring the faculties together, your strength together, even if you have, because lacking some knowledge, because a lawyer to start with, he may not be knowing how to present even a simplest of case. Forget about it, even a postponement, because even if he wants to get the adjournment, he may not be able to present it. But then, once he knows that, once he observes the seniors, once he gets, a couple of, failures, then he is able to build. So on that, when he is able to build, the excellence slowly comes, and he becomes someone, who can do the thing so perfectly. This is what exactly, the other philosophers have also looked for. What is the being, what is that, he can do the best in the life? Is it how he has to live the life through whatever given time it has been given to him? In all the philosophies, including the Greek philosophy. That is why, they have said, because the mortal horse, which is black, grey, and impetuous and all, when it goes round and round, you will only see the glimpse of the heaven. It comes back down to the earth. That is like a reincarnation. Till such time you get the maturity to control both the horses. You are able to control, your worldly life to some extent, to the extent you are able to get the experiences, the essence of the experiences. You are able to get the tattva of the experiences. You are not getting bogged down in because you are not getting sucked into the experience. You are able to keep the experience away, because the experience could be failure. In fact, whatever failures that happens to most of the people, most of us, it is all a blessing in disguise. Without those failures, we could not have yearned, we could not learn the best things, that is possible we could have in our life. The failures are the building blocks, like a Lego, on which we will be able to build. So finally, when you are able to build, you will be able to take whatever comes in the worldly life as it is, and get the use of it to the extent what you need, get your excellence in that as well. You will be focusing on what is your highest glory and all. So this is what exactly, because Vivekananda, he tried to give the concept of living in this world. What is that you are living in? All of us are living like this, because when he had gone to US, India was having almost 85 to 90% of poverty. And in fact, because there were famine in a lot of places. So much of, I think, we might not be remembering, there was a big famous Bengal famine. I think there was almost 100 million people, more than 100 million, 10 million people have perished in that famine. So when he was telling, it is like that when you are living in this life, you do the best, whatever best you can do, you just focus on that and don't bother about whatever comes about. By doing that, it's not only you are lighting up yourself, you are lighting up others also. You just go about it. The service is the one. Service is the whatever is that. He just took the very famous mantra of 2.47, the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyeva Adhikaraste Mapaleshu Katachana. In the sense, because don't expect the fruits of the life. In the sense, by expecting the fruits also, you are going to be disappointed, because you are not going to get the fruits. So in your own interest, it is not, I think it is not advisable to expect the results. Without expecting the results, you do it, it will happen. It will happen the way it should happen. When it happens, when you don't give any expectation or a color or candor to what it will happen, the future, you will enjoy it. It will come in the way as if, it is a boon which you were not expected. It would have come. And then with the expectation, don't do any karma. That also good. Ma karma hetubir. Because ma karma bala hetubir. The next line says, just because you are going to get some, you just to get the fruits of the experience, don't do any job. At the same time, Ma Shanka Akarmanyacha. Because it don't be, because you should not be inactive. You have to do it. Once you have come into this world, how would you get the experience? By doing karmas or by acting or by doing your duty or by performing whatever has been assigned to you at that point of time. What is within your capability and control? Do that. Without that, you can't do that. That is what you can do. So it's not that you always have to renounce by controlling the senses. You control the senses in such a way you are able to get the not only the experience, the lessons from experience by which you can improve your further journey. So that you don't go off the road, you don't get into the ditches in the side, you don't somewhere lose the way and all. You are able to maintain the way and go about the life journey. This is what they said. So Indriya, same thing, similar thing has been said in Bhagavad Gita also. They say because senses are superior to the gross body always. The gross body is always a subject of senses. Whatever senses ask you to do, you do it. Because the bodily comfort, the comfort of the being, you want to take it. But the mind is superior to the senses. Last week we said. When the mind is superior to the senses, because it only has got the bridle, it can control. But of course, with the charioteer is the intellect who has the discriminating ability. So what happens is, because the senses, which are the mind which is superior, the senses will have to be absorbed in the mind. So they will be in the control. The mind will have to be absorbed in the intellect. So it has got the discriminating ability. Then you are able to control everything too, and you are able to get through that. It's not that, you are able to do, you are not doing something at the cost of one another. You are able to have a sort of a sync of all the five horses. All they will have to have the same steps by which you can take it. This is exactly by abhyasa. Abhyasa in the sense equanimity that comes about. The equanimity more comes about, you are always having the higher percentage of sattva that will always permeates the entire being. You are able to be, get across to the world so easily. You are not bothered, because there's a likable crowd, I don't know these people, I am in a foreign land, or, I am not, used to this type of a gathering and all, you get into. At the same time, you are able to manage anything that happens because you've got some power, who is already, that power is discriminating power. The discriminating power is you have got it by your own sort of a strength and your own sort of abhyasa, by your own practices, that you have got it by grace of the God. The grace of the God is like how Vivekananda finally got to meet the professor from Harvard, which was not designed. But through him, he came to know, and finally he became, after his talk in September 1895, he went and gave a lecture in Harvard. At the invitation of the Harvard, he interacted with all the students, who were all the research scholars of philosophy there and all, of various philosophies, not only Indian, but there are Western philosophy of different streams, different kinds, Buddhist philosophy, Chinese philosophy and all. It all happened like that. Because by doing, because having that practice as well as having patience, what we can achieve, that's what, we have seen it. The similar mantra, what we said, because how senses are superior to gross body and mind is superior to senses. Again, it has been mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita verse. It is the third chapter, 42nd mantra. Indriyani paranhe ahur, indriyebhya param manaha. Indriyani param ahur, because like, all the senses are subject to the control of the mind, and the mind is superior to the senses. Manatastu para buddhir, because the mind is inferior to the intellect. It can be some buddhi, intellect is the superior to mind. Buddhi parastatu saha, because likewise, as you are able to fit your senses into the mind into the intellect, the journey will be wonderful. This is what they have given it. And the next mantra, we will be going into the 1.3.4 is the mantra we will be going into this week. It's also corresponding, and it can be read in sync with the earlier mantras also. It is in your page 70 of your, page 69 of your document, I have given. Indriyani hayan ahuhu. Indriyani hayan ahuhu, in the senses they are the horses. Same thing they are telling about. Vishayanteshu gocharam. All the sense objects and the experience which you are going to look for, which we are going to eventually get out of the sense objects, they are the road in which you are going to take the chariot. You are like that. Atmendriya Manoyuktam. Atmendriya Manoyuktam, in the sense it is a very complex word. They have given it. The self, the the soul, associated body, sense, and the mind, all of them together. They are the one finally collectively enjoy everything. Is the enjoyer. So say the wise ones. When you are getting anything, your sense gets the pleasure of it. Because of the sense get the pleasure, your mind is satisfied. The mind is satisfied, because of that, your intellectual gets fulfilled. Your discriminating power fulfilled. Whatever you get out of this, finally, why, how you are getting pulled into this world? Because if the sense takes you there, it is pleasing to the mind. The pleasing to the mind, because as long as it is pleasing to the mind, it may not bother about the discriminating ability, you will enjoy it. But once the discriminating ability of the intellect comes to control the bridle and the senses, you will know, yes, you've got a better way to do it, better things to do it. You've got something priority. You will be able to prioritize. You will be able to put what is first. You will not always be yielding to the senses. It is not that you totally desist, the senses and all. Senses will be there. Through the senses only you will be able to get it. But you will have to control the senses. Control in the senses, senses will give you everything. It will give you all sorts of, the movies are there in the sort of an internet. How, why we have given the child lock? Why we should, because you, so that, child doesn't say and all. Because, that is the content is available to everyone. That's why we have given the child lock, in the TV or in the internet and all, so that, we are able to allow them to see what is good for them at that point of time for their development. So that is how, because the senses can be controlled, because how it can be taken. This is the same thing, because which is coming about in other mantras also. Atma Indriya Manoyuktam, self-associated with the body, senses of the mind, is the enjoyer. Bhoktai Anuhu Manishinaha. Manishinaha in the sense, see, this is one of the best words, that is, Manishinaha is the highest evolved person. Mana is the mind. Isha, in the sense, Isha, you have controlled the mind. You are the Isha of your own mind. Manishinaha. So the Manishinaha, once you are able to get that, so you are the one, who are getting that control on your voice. Bhokta, the experience of the pain or pleasure is being experienced by you. But how it can? Atma Buddhi, because Atma Indriya Manoyuktam. Atma Indriya Manoyuktam in the sense, the mind, the senses, everything together, collectively they give you the experience. So by controlling the senses and controlling the mind, you are focusing on get the right experience for your development. And right experience is the one which is finally giving you the innate satisfaction. It able to take you to the higher level. The happiness, because you are not going to encounter anything called sorrow. You are going to have zero sorrow. If you have to call the modern terms, the zero tolerance and zero sorrow and all. The zero sorrow in the sense you will not take anything as a sorrow. Because you have got the wisdom of the experience, you are able to take it as it is, because even if it is a loss, it may happen, it could be a personal loss, or it could be a financial loss, it could be a professional loss, it could be a loss of so many things. But then you are able to take it appropriately because you are able to get the right wisdom from your experiences that guides you. Why they are telling all these things? Why can't we, these things, okay, let me allow to have my own life in this. Because then this, to consider what Plato has said. The other one, the dark horse will always take you to the way you will only be going round and wobbling. The wobbling in the sense you are always agitated, you will always be encountering, because the sort of a stress-free life is when you are able to have the equanimity. Equanimity when you are able to balance both. You are, because the highest, the self, whom you will be able to get the bliss, the discriminating ability, once you have it, and the discriminating ability comes at the right time to enable you to take the right decision. That by practice when we do, when we say how it happens, only some people are able to use the discriminating ability. Some people are not able to, even though they have tried very hard and all. This is where the question of God's grace comes. God's grace is nothing but what you work out. So once you become eligible, the grace will automatically fall. But you have not become eligible. That means God's grace comes, yes, it is this. Now I am going to get this particular experience. So once you are going to get this experience, repeatedly when you are going to get this, because we have got a similar chariot analogy in the Buddhist philosophy also. The Buddhist philosophy also says the chariot metaphor, they say, the chariot is the something where your mind gets every time, when the chariot goes, you've got different type of roads. They say it's not the same road and all, but they also give the analogy by taking that, how one person can spiritually grow in this world. Spiritual growth is more important for you to get this, the psychic growth or the Chetana growth in the sense, because you will have to flourish to your full potential. That's what Greek philosophy also says, Buddhist philosophy also says. Your potential is still not realized. As a human being, what you are capable of, what are all your powers, what are all your achievement possible, with this body, mind and intellect, you are still not able to get. The purpose is that to achieve that highest potential of ours, all these controls have been talked about and the discriminating ability is talked about. Innately, it will happen to all the successful people, whoever we are seeing in all fields. Whoever we have encountered, all those people would have had these particular things. So the very famous movie which has come about, the Oppenheimer, which has come about, if you really see, because we also, if you see his life, we'll talk about it in the next week, little more on that. It is all, because God's grace, because he had so many things, he could have faced, and he has faced the life squarely, because it's despite his achievement, he has faced the life squarely, and he had the mental strength to face it. How it came, that is the God's grace. What you have achieved is not the God's grace. You are able to face the challenges of the world at any point of time. So how to face the challenges, that is what we are going to see, and they will explain with a little more anecdotes and all next week. With this, today I will conclude today's sessions, and we will be having a small meditation. We are taking one Agni Suktam, which is from the very powerful Agni Suktam. We have taken one Agni Suktam earlier. This powerful Agni Suktam is so powerful. I think it will take you to the process of, the helping yourself. What we have talked about, the discriminating ability, the control of the mind, and the control of the senses, everything is being enabled by this Agni Suktam. We will be going for this particular meditation immediately. Now I will close this and we will go within just a minute to the meditation. Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vadidamastu Ma Vishvidavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We will go to meditation.